Okay guys, so I'm out here doing a couple of tests for the Curado DC. A couple of very important tests, I would say. The first test is going to be testing out the fluorocarbon setting, or number 3 on the dial, with actual fluorocarbon. Now I've spooled it up with 15-pound Cigar red label that I had lying around. And we're going to see if fluorocarbon mode works with actual fluorocarbon. And I find that any fluorocarbon over 12 pounds is generally kind of unruly. So we're going to see if this Curado DC can handle it. Now I've set the spool tension to just minimize the side-to-side play. Actually, there's a little bit of play there. I'm going to tighten it up. There we go. And we're going to be throwing this red-eye shad. As you can see, it's super windy today, so I expect a lot of backlashes. But when we figure out if the Curado DC can cast fluorocarbon, we're going to do another very important test, which you'll see. So here we go. So once again, I have it on 3. Let's see what happens. Oh wow, okay. All right, that was super controlled, pretty decent distance. I wasn't really trying to wing it out there. Okay, let's try a couple again. Okay, so that went out there a good 40 yards. I was barely trying. I saw a couple of little coils there, but it was very controlled. Okay, we're gonna try some overhead casting now once this wind dies down. Okay, so if you watched my on the water impressions video for the Curado DC, you'll know that the fluorocarbon setting, or number 3, was pretty much useless. Let's see what happens. Okay, wow, there was an overrun in the middle of the cast there. And I was using, I believe, 10-pound monofilament. So with this 15-pound fluoro, the fluoro setting actually seems to work pretty good. Let's try again. Okay, that went almost 50 yards. I almost dumped the spool there. So here's a little revelation that we learned just now. Fluorocarbon mode is best. Oh shit, I had a strike. It's best for fluorocarbon. I had a little strike there. I'm not here trying to fish or catch any fish, just do this test. But let's try this again. Okay, so fluorocarbon mode with fluorocarbon looks to be pretty impressive. I'm getting huge distance and very good spool control. So I think we solved the issue of the fluorocarbon setting. Let's try a overhead cast now. Okay, that went probably 50 yards almost, and I was barely trying. So I think we solved the mystery of fluorocarbon mode. It actually works with fluorocarbon line. Imagine that. Okay, we'll try a couple more casts, overhead and sidearm. Okay, so my impressions of this Curado DC have went up dramatically now that I know that the 3 setting, or the fluorocarbon setting, works perfectly for fluorocarbon, which is the most difficult line to control for a reel. Let's try some more overhead. There's a lot of wind out here. Okay, so had some fluffing that sorted itself out at the end. Okay, so if you recall in the on the water impressions video for the Curado that I did, I was casting, I believe it was 10-pound mono, and the number 3 setting, or the fluoro setting, was pretty useless for monofilament apparently, but using fluorocarbon it seems to be perfect. Okay, so let's see if the other modes can handle this fluorocarbon. So let's go to 4. Yep, definitely handle it. The distance was really short though, probably a good 10 yards short of number 3. Let's try again. Okay, distance was really short, probably about 20 yards, 25 yards tops. So number 4 can definitely handle fluorocarbon, which is no surprise. Okay, let's go to number 2. Let's see what happens. So we're on the number 2 setting, which is supposed to be the braid and mono setting, and I think this is going to be bad, but let's see what happens anyway. Okay, well, luckily the crank went far enough that the overrun sorted itself out, so not too bad. Now granted, that was a sidearm cast, so I'm going to try overhead now. Okay, that wasn't super bad, but still you can tell that the fluorocarbon mode was actually getting a little bit more distance with more line control. So I don't know how Shimano managed to do it, but they made the line mode that's supposed to have more braking cast farther than the line mode that has less braking when using the correct line, I should say. So kudos on them. So I'm going to do a couple more casts with the fluorocarbon mode, and then we're going to do a very important test that I'm kind of scared to do, but curiosity got the best of me. So I just got to do it. So we're going to go back to 3. Hopefully you guys can see where that's landing. That's going out a pretty good distance. Okay, one more cast. Thumb too slow, but spool is very controlled. So very strange that I'm able to get the distance with a stiff, heavy fluorocarbon line. Okay guys, it's time to do the ultimate test for the Curado DC. Now, I've been getting a lot of emails ever since this Curado DC came out. People asking me if the DC would work if it got wet, whether I can fish it in the rain, you know, if the lure or the reel falls in the water, will it break? And the answer's always been, I really don't know. And I always refer to Tackle Tour's article where they dipped the DC, I think the whole reel, in water for one of the very first DC models, and the DC unit stopped working. But it started working again once the DC unit dried up. So according to Shimano, this unit is sealed. So we're going to do the unthinkable, and we're going to get this unit wet to see if it still works. Okay guys, so I'm going to open up this DC side plate, and of course you flip the dial all the way to the open part, and this DC unit looks pretty sealed to me. This is a hard plastic polymer material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip this unit in the water. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I saw a kid who got a Scorpion DC, right? And he was fiddling around with the adjustments, and he dropped his side plate into the water for a good, what, 5 seconds? He found the side plate, put it back on, and the Scorpion DC worked fine. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to leave this in the water for 10 seconds. Here we go. All right, that's enough. Okay, so this either is going to be a cool experiment or a very expensive mistake. So I'm going to shake the water out. I'm going to go back and attach this onto the Curado and see what happens. So yeah, I'm kind of nervous, guys, but like I said, the Scorpion DC's unit doesn't seem quite as sealed as the Curado's, and it seemed to handle that submersion in water very well. Okay guys, so I've attached the DC unit back on, still kind of wet, and I'm going in number 3. Now hopefully this will work, but worst comes to worst, I buy a whole new Curado DC. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, it functions just fine. So I assume if the DC unit was broken, there would be no DC line. Nope, it seems to work. It works. So Shimano has indeed sealed this DC unit, so you can easily fish this in rain. You can dunk the reel for, I guess, short periods of time. I don't know how long you'd want to dunk a reel if you're out wading. Let's check all the line modes now. I'm going to 4. Yep, 4 definitely still works. Wow, okay, so for those of you who were kind of hesitant on getting the Curado DC or any of the later DCs because you were scared that getting the DC unit wet would wreck the reel, I can confidently say, at least on the Curado DC and the Scorpion DC, they've definitely sealed these units and you have nothing to worry about. So buy with confidence.